My name is Odessa Thacker, so if any of you guys have talked to me before, I recognize a lot of names in here. I am the equestrian admissions counselor, so those of you who have applied or been accepted, anything like that, you'll talk to me. On this call, we also have Jessica Denniston, who's an instructor and a coach, as well as a teacher too, and part of our Equine Studies program. We also have Mackenzie Morgan and Lauren Capobianco, and they are current equine seniors. By equine, I just mean they are equestrians. They ride on our team. Whether or not you study equine studies, people tend to call you equine if you ride. That's just the way it goes around here. So as you know, I'm admitting people, more and more people. I'm going to go ahead and let them introduce themselves one at a time. So Jess and Mackenzie and Lauren, feel free to introduce yourselves.
All right, well, I'll go first. So I'm Jessica Denniston, and I'm one of our faculty members out at the barn. Currently, I teach mounted classes, so I have a couple of fundamental classes, which everybody will ride in at some point. And then I also teach our show ring comp class and our methods of teaching, where you get to learn how to be a riding instructor. And we have lots of hands-on opportunities out at the barn, so everybody gets to be a part of that as well. So if you have questions about any of that stuff as we go through, you can answer our IHSA questions and IDA and anything about the academics that are happening out at the Equestrian Center. I'll let Lauren go next.
Hi, I'm Lauren. I'm from Long Island, New York, and I'm a senior equine studies and interdisciplinary history double major right now. And so I'm on the IHSA team, and I've been in riding classes every semester.
Hi guys, my name is Mackenzie. I'm a senior as well from Fort Wayne, Indiana. I'm a equine studies major with a Spanish minor, and I'm on both the IHSA and the IDA teams.
All right. So I will say too, typically in these open houses, you guys would also get to meet some more of our coaches. We did have sort of a situation, one of our coaches did. So Lisa is not going to be here today, but between Jess and I, we can answer any questions you guys may possibly have. And literally as far as student life, equine studies, just riding in general, or any other programs that we have here. So I'm going to let Jess in a minute give a little bit of a rundown on our actual equine studies program, as well as maybe some of the riding classes and, the difference between them. And then from there, we can start asking some questions. And you guys feel free, type in the chat box if you have any questions while Jess is talking. And if you think of them afterwards, you can also unmute yourself and ask.
All right. So out at Emory and Henry and out at the Equestrian Center, we have a BA program and a BS program that you can major or minor in. And then of course, if any of you are just interested in riding or the teams, you don't have to be an equine major or minor in order to be on those teams. So we have a lot of students who are majors in like political science or education, and they're still major players on our teams as well. But our equine studies program, we are a general program. So you're going to learn everything from health and breeding to equine nutrition to anatomy, and then the riding parts, stable management, things like that. So you really come out as a well-rounded equestrian who's going to be able to go into the industry and then branch out in any direction that you want. Of course, we have areas where you can get a little bit more specific, like we have a breaking and training class. This past year, we did a foaling class, so our students got to do full watch and prep our mare for birth and all that stuff, and they get to handle the baby afterwards. So we do have some places where you can really start to specialize, but we do make sure that all of our students come out. It's very well-rounded equestrian, so you can go into any aspect of the industry, whether you come in and want to do a pre-vet track, or you want to go out in the industry as a groom or a rider or a manager. Those are all definite possibilities from our graduates that are out there right now and students who are out doing internships and things like that. So every semester, obviously, if you're a major or a minor, you're going to have equine courses. And that also means that you get to be out at the Equestrian Center riding. And so some of the different classes we offer riding wise, we have our fundamentals courses, which are hunt seat based. And so you're going to have a flat day and an over fences day. But then we also have classes. We have dressage, we have show jumpers, we have hunters, we have show ring comp, where you learn about going to horse shows and how to prep the horse and yourself. So we do have a lot of different classes as well. And most students end up riding in at least one class every semester, which is a requirement if you are on one of the equestrian teams. So if you are on the IDA team or the IHSA team, the requirement is that you are in a minimum of one riding class per semester. And that goes for whether you're a major or not at all in the equine studies department on that end. And so that kind of serves as making sure that you're getting your time in the saddle. And I could talk about our program forever, but I would love questions. And that way I don't bore you guys to death about things that you might not be interested in at all. So feel free, even if you want to unmute yourself or raise your hand and ask questions if you have questions about any of our classes or anything like that. I know most of the time we get the question about how many times a week does everybody get to ride. Typically, if you're in a fundamentals or an applied class, you're going to ride 2 times a week. And then we also have opportunities for extra rides. So you can come out and sign up for a horse that's not in class that day, and then you get to ride. So you just have to ask permission as far as if you've never ridden that horse and things like that. But there are lots of opportunities for extra riding things. All right, I have a question about required minimum skill level for classes and team. So there is no minimum skill level. So the way our program works is that we have riding classes from the beginners all the way up through students who are showing, at the top level in the A circuit. So wherever you are, we will meet you where you are and then help you progress from there. So, and in the IHSA as well, as far as the team goes, we start with walk trot riders, and that is the first class on the team. And those students have to have less than 24 hours of instruction for their entire life. So those are true beginners. So there really and truly is a spot for every skill level on our teams and in our classes. Do you offer boarding for student horses? We do. So we do have a boarder aisle. We call it aisle C out at the barn, and we do have students who bring their horses for sure. And then you don't have to use your horse in the horse show or anything like that, and you'll still ride school horses for your classes. Every once in a while you might say, hey, can I ride my horse today? And that's fine. You just have to talk with your instructor about that. Are we allowed to bring our own horse for personal use and still compete on the IHSA team? Absolutely. Okay. And your horse does not become part of the program or anything like that, but you can absolutely bring your own horse. And we do travel to outside horse shows, typically every February, I guess it is, February, March. We take students up to the Virginia Horse Center, and some students go to show, and then other students go for a workshop, and you actually get to work for a trainer at that show in order to get some real hands-on, real-world experience. And that counts as a credit towards your final credits that you need for your degree. What qualities do we look for in a team member who shows for the team? So pretty much somebody who's going to put in the work. And Heather is our IHSA coach, and she always has a plan in her head. And she is very good about making sure that she's not going to put anybody into a situation where you're not going to be competitive. So when we show IHSA, we go out and we show horses that the other schools own. So you draw a name out of a hat and then you go get on that horse, and that's your class for the day. And Heather's really good about understanding the horses that each school has and what types of riders are going to do well on those horses. So just because you come in and maybe you don't go to a horse show at all your first semester, it doesn't mean that she doesn't have a plan in her head for using the second semester or the next year, making sure that you're up to par with where you need to be to get on a completely new random horse and then go in and be competitive. So put in the work, put in the hours, and it pays off for sure. Let's see. Do we have a cross-country course? We do in the back 40. So if any of you visit the barn, we have a huge back 40. We don't currently have an eventing team though, if that is the direction you're kind of going with that. But certainly students that we have do compete in eventing, but we don't have a collegiate eventing team. So those are things that they'll go out on their own. And there are lots of opportunities for eventers. Lisa's background, so Lisa's our director. Her background is actually in eventing, and she is our IDA coach. So she teaches all of our dressage classes and our show jumpers class. So they're just kind of broken up pieces of the eventing world, but she is an amazing source of information for all of that and very passionate about it. So for sure, there are opportunities for eventers, and we're pretty close. We're in a nice little spot as far as getting to horse shows and different venues for eventing and hunters and everything. Let's see. Our class is extra from tuition. So yes, we do have fees associated with all of our riding classes and any of your lab classes. So we don't pay a flat fee for the equine program. Instead, you're going to pay those fees with the courses. And I'm sure Odessa can talk all day long about the fees and how they work out. And we're very competitive with other programs. It just happens that ours are broken up rather than in one chunk that you would see on your bill. But there are extra fees for sure. Okay, boarding. So I honestly can't remember the exact board amount, but you can contact our director, Lisa, and our office manager, Kristen. Bowen is her last name, and she keeps a list of all of our boarders and their information, and then making sure we do have a limited number, so it's not an endless number of people who can come and board. So it works on a first come, first serve basis. And she keeps that list. So get in touch with her and she can give you all that information and the vaccination requirements and things like that. Let's see. Can you half lease or full lease one of the school horses? No. So all of our school horses are completely in the program for our students in the program. You can, however, show one of our horses when we go to outside horse shows. So you can do like a show lease for that day. But that is something you have to talk with your instructors about and make sure we get you a good match and all of that. Let's see. Okay. How does a riding scholarship tie into all the lessons? Oh, that might actually be a better question for Odessa. I'll let her talk about the financial aid packets and all of that. Let's see, other things on here. Do you offer any horsemanship or liberty classes? We don't, but we do have a lot of hands-on groundwork type things that we do as well, but we don't have any liberty classes. But when you do schooling techniques, you'll learn lots of different training methods. And then if you do the breaking and training class with Heather, you actually get to start a baby. So you'll do lots of groundwork with them as well. We don't currently have team workout days, but we do have groups of students who work out together, and there's workout facilities on campus. And then depending kind of on what's going on, I know a lot of my classes, I give them exercises like yoga and things like that. So it's going to depend on if you want to work out or if you want horses to be your workout. Let's see. Is the equestrian center on campus? We are not. We're not on campus, but we are just a couple exits down 81, and it's a pretty quick drive there. It actually works out to be a nice little bubble of community down at the equestrian center. So some students I think really enjoy getting off of campus and being away from that, and it's kind of your escape. And students are welcome at the equestrian center anytime. So you don't just have to be in a class to come out. You can come out on the weekends. You can come out in between classes and things like that. Okay. Can you utilize a show lease for an event? For an event show. If we have a horse that is suitable and appropriate for you, absolutely we could work something out. But that would also go along with making sure that you have one of our coaches with you whenever you take any of our horses off property. Okay. Do you guys have a carpool to get to the barn? So we do have on campus, there are some resources where they will bring you out to the barn if you are in a class. So they will bring you out for class things. But most of our students use that for about a week, and then everybody kind of buddies up and drives out together. Okay. Are you gonna interrupt me, Odessa?
No, sorry. I was just looking over the questions to see what I can answer to help you. Boarding is $2,600 a semester, so it breaks down to about $520 a month. And that is full board. So the horses get fed 3 times a day. They get turned out, brought in, blanketed, taken care of. One of the things we stress here, even if you bring your own horse, is that you are a student first and foremost. So we will help you take care of your horse so you can focus on your education. Let's see what else. We also have people that live. We have Anna lives on or at the barn, so she can do night checks and all that good stuff. So everything's covered there, and your horse will have turnout, not a problem. How much of your board can you work off? So we do have a work study program. We call it student employment as well, same idea. As far as work study goes, students who federally qualify for work study, AKA who qualify based on your FAFSA, they do get first pick over those jobs. That being said, there are almost always opportunities to work at the barn. So even if you are not federally eligible, you can still do work study. You just get second pick of those jobs. And that goes through our career center. And basically, just to answer that actual question, you can work part of your board off that way because board goes into tuition. So that's how you would work that off. Let's see. What else am I missing? The scholarship question. How does the riding scholarship tie into all of the lessons, IHSA, or the whole riding program in general? So due to the fact that we have fees for our classes, our riding classes, that helps cover those fees essentially. Knocks a little bit of it off, and you guys will find that if you're looking at other equestrian related colleges or just colleges with equestrian programs in general, you will find that they pretty much all have fees if they have their own barn particularly. It does help cover everything for us, you know, keep the lights on, keep the horses fed, all that good stuff, same idea. The scholarship helps with that, but you know, you may find that your scholarship maybe isn't enough to cover all of that, and we can raise your scholarship in the future, especially if you don't get a scholarship coming in. You may find that you're with us for a couple semesters, you know, maybe 1 or 2, and you can go to Lisa or to myself or anyone else and say, hey, I think I can qualify for a riding scholarship now, and we can work with you from there. So there are a lot of opportunities there, and that's kind of the nice thing about us as a college. Now, a lot of colleges do have riding fees. We can get those taken care of. Another thing that I always like to point out is the fact that our riding team itself, and this is always a question, cost-wise, the only fee you have to pay is the association fee. So we are a varsity sport at Emory and Henry. We are funded by the college. So, you know, all the fun stuff like your team jacket and team polo, that sort of stuff you get for free. That's on us. We always have other stuff like backpacks and other fun things you can pay for yourself. But all of your travel fees, hotel, food, even literally down to athletic training. And we have a chiropractor that comes on campus once a week. That is all totally taken care of by the college, which is pretty awesome. So the only fee you have to pay to be on the team is going to be your yearly association fee for IHSA or IDA or both. And those typically run about $40 to $45 a year. Let's see. Y'all feel free to keep asking questions. Riding scholarship videos. So if you look at any of our performance or affinity scholarships on our website, it says March 1st. That being said, you can send us a video after that. The school as a whole likes to sort of have their scholarships figured out by March for the following year. So if you can get me a video before that, that would be great. Just so everyone is aware of the riding scholarship and the process of it. For those of you who don't know, once you are an accepted student, then you can send me a video over email. And it's got to be a riding video of you. It can be at home in a lesson. It can be at a show. I would say no more than 10 minutes. We really don't need to see any longer than that. We like to see flat work in both directions, preferably, as well as at least 1 or 2 courses of jumps if you're planning on jumping. If you just want to do IDA and the dressage stuff, just send us a video of you flatting. And essentially what we're judging is your riding style as well as your equitation, and what we consider to be teachability. So how quickly, can we get you to the level where you can show and win with us? And again, like I said earlier, that scholarship, whatever you're offered, can be raised in the future. Or if you don't get offered one at first, we can add that on later too. Let's see. Would you say that a fair amount of graduates attend vet school and go into veterinary medicine? So I don't have an exact percentage off the top of my head, but there's always at least a handful of pre-vet students that come in every year. And yes, they do end up going to vet school. I know a friend of mine who graduated with me, she's in vet school now. So there's absolutely that possibility. And the pre-vet route is a relatively popular route for a lot of students to take. And Dr. Patty will be your contact for that. So if you want more information, let me know. Can you be on IHSA and IDA? Yes, absolutely. A lot of our riding students, or a lot of our equestrians in general, are on both teams. You can play a little bit of both, or you can just choose one. It's totally up to you. We do show on the A circuits when there is interest in showing, if students want to go to shows, outside shows. We do typically try to go to at least one a semester, again, when there's interest in it. And like Jess said earlier, you can take our horses with permission. So there's plenty of opportunity there, or you can take your own horse as well. Do you guys come down to WEF to recruit or watch? So sort of, we normally try to go to like the college preparatory invitational, things like that. This year is a little bit different. We've been very careful with our travel, just because the college is still relatively low key on what we're allowed to do. We are doing private scheduled visits right now. So if anyone wants to come visit us when January comes around, by all means, feel free to get in touch with us and we'll make that happen. But as far as travel goes, typically we do travel. To recruit, we do, like I said earlier, some of the college related horse shows, as well as things like IEA nationals and things like that. We will at least, if we will not be at CPI, then we will have alums there. We do have alums right now that work for Milestone Farm as well as Tori Colvin, and they'll both be down there at some point. How do you decide who shows at IHSA shows? Jess, I'm going to let you answer this one.
All right. And I know somebody asked earlier about how we decide about who's on IHSA and IDA. And of course, Odessa answered that you can certainly be on both. But at the beginning of each semester, we do have tryouts. So everybody comes and we get to see everybody ride and what riding attire you have. If you don't have everything, don't freak out. We have plenty of students who share things or can buy things once you're here as far as jackets and things like that go. But we do have tryouts so we can see everybody kind of in that setting. And then that really helps us figure out who's going to show that semester. And so it really depends. So you'll change a lot as a rider from when you come in to when you graduate. So we see where you are in the beginning, and some students are going to be in a class where they'll be competitive. So say you come in and you qualify as a novice rider. So that means you're going to do the walk, trot, canter, flat class. And we think you're going to be really competitive in that class. You might show your first semester or your second semester. If you come in and you qualify as an over fences person and we have some things that we need to tweak, then we might have you wait a little bit to show until you have some more time with us under your belt. So the way we decide is really who's going to go out and be competitive and if you've been putting in the time. So are you coming to all of your riding classes? Did you come to practice? And are you going to be competitive on the horses that that school has to offer? And that's how we decide. Our team is large, but you have 4 years, and we also host shows at home as far as IHSA goes. So that adds to our opportunities of getting to show as well. And Heather does a really good job of spreading it out and then saving points. Of course, you'll earn points as you go through IHSA. So there might be a time that you show for a while and then she holds you back so that we can use those points to be really competitive in our postseason. Hopefully that answers that question. I know I wish I could say if you can do ABC, then you'll definitely get to show, but it really is pretty dependent on all of that. Let's see. If you're a professional rider, can you still compete? Yes, you can compete in the IHSA. So if you start looking at NCAA stuff, that's a no, but for IHSA, you are fine. If you board your horse, you get to take private lessons with the coaches along with regular team practices. You can, so it's an additional fee, and you can schedule that with whichever coach you decide you want to take lessons with, but you absolutely can take private lessons on your own horse for an additional fee. You just have to schedule that. If you study abroad for a semester, will you lose your spot on the team? No, you are absolutely able to go and study abroad and have all those experiences and come back and your team spot is still going to be there. So no worries about that. We've had a lot of students actually who go and study abroad and enjoy their whole semester, and then they come back and pick up right where they left off. So that is absolutely available to you. Can you show at A shows during the school year with another trainer? If it's on your own horse, absolutely. So if you're like going home to show your own horse, that's fine. That is totally fine. You obviously can't take one of our horses with another trainer, but you can certainly go and compete your own horse and do whatever. If you want to drive back and forth, that is completely fine. You cannot compete your own horse in IHSA. So in IHSA, it's a draw system. And when we go to horse shows, you'll just draw a name of one of their horses and you ride them. And then at our home shows, you would, even if you're showing on our team, you would still draw a name out of a hat and ride at random one of our horses that's in that class. IHSA is all based on a draw system.
While you're answering questions, I'm sorry, I'm just going to answer. Sierra asked, if you can't go to CPI or East Coast shows, can you still be recruited? Absolutely. Particularly, I know if you go on our Instagram, there's a link at the bottom of our bio. You can click on that, and under that form, there is under that form, there is the opportunity for you to click on another link that takes you to a recruiting form. Fill out that form and we'll know that you're interested, or you can literally just email me and let me know, and I can send you that form as well. Let's see. I don't know if there's anything else in here that I can answer. What would the schedule look like if we had our own horse there and rode on the IHSA team? Jess, I'm going to let you answer this. There's a lot of flexibility there.
Yeah. And I'll give you the start of an answer, and then I'm going to let Mackenzie answer the rest of it because she actually boarded her horse at the barn for a couple years. So pretty much it's going to depend on each semester. It's going to look different. Students are certainly allowed to come out and see their horse whenever you want. We have 3 riding arenas. So if you come out and there's a class going on, you can ride your horse in the other arena. And so you just have to schedule in the time that you're going to ride your own horse wherever you have time in your schedule. I wouldn't say that it overlaps very often with IHSA, except for on the weekends. If you are showing, then you're obviously going to be gone for that entire day. And when we have horse shows at home, those arenas, there's no riding other than the horse show. But I'll let Mackenzie kind of talk about her and Echo's experience with all of that.
So first, I just have to say that I am probably one of the pickiest human beings when it comes to my horse's care. And so the fact that I trust the Intermont staff enough to bring my mare says a lot in general. Lauren can agree to this because I'm super crazy about my horse, as I'm sure most people are. But I did not find it very difficult to manage a school schedule and a riding schedule with having my own personal horse. I've always taken 18 credits since freshman year up to now. So I've always had a super packed schedule. And I never was like, oh my gosh, I don't have time to go to the barn today. I don't have time to go ride my horse. I always either went late in the evening. The barn has really easy hours, just like 7, I think it's usually like 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., might be 7 to 6 on the weekends. And there's always a ring open. That's one of the really nice parts about having 2 indoors and a huge outdoors. You almost always have a ring available to use. So overall, I'd say it's not super hard to manage your school schedule with your barn schedule and your personal horse.
All right. Can anyone think of any other questions? Y'all feel free, you can unmute yourselves and ask as well. Or if we missed anyone's question, let us know.
What's the cost of board?
Board is $2,600 a semester, which breaks down to about $520 a month, and it is totally full board. So your horse gets taken care of, turned out, brought in, fed, all that good stuff.
What's turnout?
You can do daytime turnout or nighttime turnout. Typically the horses go out in groups of 2 or by themselves, depending on if your horse gets along with another horse or not.
If you have a high performance feed, can you supply your own feed?
That is a great question. I believe so, because I had my own horse while I was there, and at one point in time I did supply my own feed. I would imagine they'll still let you do that, but that would be a great question for our barn manager, which we can get you in touch with.
Thank you. If you choose not to do the ISHA team, can you compete at USCF shows with the coaches from the school?
I believe so, Jess. You can help with that one as well, but yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're not interested in doing IHSA, but you're taking classes and you're still in our program, then you still have full access to all the coaches. So you can absolutely still come to the horse shows when we take students to the A circuit shows and things like that. Absolutely. Somebody asked about if you can work off lesson fees. That would be a no. Well, I guess technically it's a no, but you can do work study, which then you can apply towards tuition, and all of those fees are going to lump into your tuition at the end anyway. So yes and no. You can.
It's not like a direct, but yes, you can.
Yeah. Is your board covered by the Virginia 529 accounts?
I'm not sure. That would be a great question to ask Kristen as well. And I can find that out for you.
Okay.
I would imagine since our board is worked into tuition, then if it covers tuition, it'll be covered. Same idea. But I can't say yes or no off the top of my head. So.
Thank you.
No problem.
If you've been a professional for about a year, is it, can you still compete if you are a professional, because I own a business and I am a professional rider, can you compete in the ISHA, or is that frowned upon more or less?
You can still compete. So I don't know if it would really be frowned upon. I think I've had questions in the past come up if you're competing with a school that is also falling under an NCAA umbrella, but we're not. So we're fine on that. Obviously our other sports are NCAA, but our equestrian team is IHSA and IDA. Let's see.
So do we have, Kirsten asked, do we have to fill out NCAA forms to be on the team? No, we are not NCAA. We are IHSA, ANRC, and IDA. That is what we compete as far as collegiate bodies for equestrian teams go. So NCAA does not tie to us whatsoever.
Vet and farrier, how does that work? If you have your own farrier, are you allowed to bring your own farrier in to take care of your horse?
Yes. So if you have a farrier who's in this area or willing to come to the barn, you are absolutely allowed to do that, but you do have to make sure that you schedule that with our barn managers and make sure that either you're there to hold your own horse or that you've worked it out with them. But for sure, you are allowed to do that. And we have 2 really great farriers that work with all of our school horses and all of our boarders right now, but we've had students bring their own farriers in the past.
And your vet office, how reputable are they?
So they're amazing. We have a vet who does all of our school horses, and then there's a couple other vets in the area that students use, or you can use our who's at the school, and Dr. Hott is our college vet, and he actually also teaches 2 of the classes that you would take if you were an equine studies major. So you get to spend lots of time with Dr. Hott.
Emma asked if the horse has allergies or is on regular medications, will they continue to get them regularly? Can horses go out alone and turn out if preferred, or they need to? Yes to both of those questions. So if your horse has medications, our staff will accommodate that, and it will go into their feed or whatever like it normally would. And horses can go alone and turn out if they don't get along with other horses. So there's no problems there.
Are there jumper classes in IHSA competitions or no?
No, so IHSA is completely equitation based because that makes it the most fair level playing field that we can make as far as going out and catch riding. So there are not jumper classes as far as traditional jumper classes. We do have over fences equitation classes and then flat classes, but there's no jumper classes. We do offer a jumpers class that Lisa teaches as a class that you can take as part of your equine studies degree program, or you're not doing the degree program, you can take the class for credit. So there is a class that we offer that's the jumpers, but we don't, and I just say you're not going to compete in the jumper class.
And I'll point out, just as an add-on to that, we do have so many students that come in that are jumpers, and they do go into IHSA and really excel at that. One of my favorites was Francisco from a couple of years ago. He just graduated last year. And Francisco actually came from Spain. He had done everything you could possibly imagine, especially like the Grand Prix and stuff like that in Spain. He came to us and he thought it was so funny, that we jumped little jumps compared to what he was used to jumping. But he did IHSA and he was awesome at it. He did so well and he thoroughly enjoyed it.
Are you allowed to bring private coaches to the facilities?
No. So at the equestrian center, at the Emory and Henry Equestrian Center, we don't allow any outside coaches because of our insurance. So if you're going to take lessons or anything like that, it has to be with one of the coaches at the equestrian center.
Your coaches, have they taught any jumpers in their levels? Because I have a show jumper horse and he would be the one, he jumps right now at 1.10 m. And hopefully by the end of this coming year, he'll be at 1.20 m. Can they go that high?
Yeah, absolutely. So all of our coaches have extensive backgrounds in the industry and competitively and all of that, and have competed at those heights. So you'll be in good hands. And Lisa and Heather have a lot. I don't personally have a lot of show jumping experience, but Heather and Lisa have a lot of show jumping experience in their backgrounds, and have worked for some really top riders in the past and have taken students throughout all the levels. So they are fantastic. And you're welcome to look at their bios or contact Lisa or Heather and chat with them about different scenarios, but they are more than capable. Absolutely.
And I'll say too, and everyone always asks this question, what sets us apart from other colleges with riding programs? And I will say one of the biggest thing that sets us apart is the fact that all of our coaches, Jessica included, all of them are active professionals. Outside of college, they are doing their own horse things. So by all means, they can talk the talk and walk the walk and all that good stuff. They're not just coaches or just professors. They are really and truly professionals with the connections in the industry that gets students places.
What are some of the venues you guys travel to do A-rated shows and AA rated shows?
So recently, Tryon is 2.5, maybe 3 hours away. So that's a really nice facility that we're pretty close to. The Virginia Horse Center is not far away at all. It's right up 81, super easy drive. We've gone to Brownland in the past. I know Heather took a group to Kentucky, not this past summer with COVID, but summer before. So we definitely, obviously all East Coast. We don't travel outside of the East Coast, but we're willing to go where students are interested in going. But those ones have been popular and close enough that they're convenient to go to.
So
you guys,
sorry, go ahead.
You're good. Do you guys ever compete at HITS, the series?
We haven't since I've been here, but I've only been here for 3 years, so it's not outside the realm of possibility, but we have not recently.
Okay, thank you.
Carolyn asked, she said, my trainer wants me to ask who the most successful hunter jumper rider that's come from your program is. And this is a really tough question, quite frankly. We have had some absolutely phenomenal riders come through our program. I mean, Heather, Lisa, and Jessica all came through the program too, which is pretty incredible. One thing to remember is that the Emory and Henry program did come from Virginia Intermont College. So any and every rider that went to Virginia Intermont College it's the same program. So that being said, if you look over and think about 21 national championships, and some of those students that were on those teams have also won individual championships, and they've gone on from there to ride all over the country, all over the world. We have student graduates riding in different countries to this day. So I'm not sure I could pick one person. We've been very fortunate and we've been very successful. So we've had a lot of really successful riders and students come through.
Admission deadline for fall of 2020 or 2021.
As far as admissions goes, we do have deadlines that we like to have for ourselves as well as you guys. So April 1st is going to be the regular decision deadline. Enrollment deposit deadline is June 1st, but we actually have rolling admissions at Emory and Henry, which means you can apply, get accepted, and enroll at any point in the year for the next semester. So we like to have deadlines for ourselves and for you so you can get the dorm building you want and the classes you want, but we can make it work. If, 2 weeks before classes start in August, if you desperately want to be with us, we can make that happen.
Does ISHA or IHSA team start in summer or fall?
Fall.
Okay. And can you bring your own trailer and leave it there at the facilities?
Yes, as long as we have room for it, which we typically do. We rarely run out of room.
Okay, thank you. Any housing recommendations for older students?
So that's a great question. For older students in general, typically freshmen only have certain options for their housing. But if you are an older student, then we may be able to talk to housing and get you into something with a private room. Our village is what we call it, across the railroad tracks, across the street from the main campus. We have townhouses as well as houses with private rooms. So that may be very well be a possibility for you.
Okay.
Is there a certain place that equestrians stay, or is it mainly everyone in dorms? So this is always a good question too. Typically, I will say housing is really surprisingly good at putting a lot of equine students with other equestrians, because we do have certain schedules that might not get along super well with other people who want to sleep in on a Saturday morning, for instance. But you may end up with a roommate that's not an equestrian as well. So that happens. We don't have certain dorm buildings that a lot of the equestrians end up in or things like that. Mostly it's freshmen grouped together or just depending on what dorm building you request. With COVID, do you still think that next year we would be able to continue as normal? I hope so. For the sake of all of us, I sure hope so. Our equestrian, just the department as a whole, did a phenomenal job this year of keeping everyone socially distanced, and our students did so wonderfully too. They were all very responsible, and I really personally appreciated it. Hopefully everything will continue as normal next year. This upcoming semester in the spring, things are supposed to be normal. So let's keep our fingers crossed and hope that particularly by next year, everything will be totally back to normal.
What are your stall setups like size-wise, and shavings or sawdust, or what do you guys put for bedding in your stalls?
I'm going to let Jess answer that one. So as far as stalls go, all of our stalls are going to get cleaned out once or twice a day, depending on your horse's turnout schedule and the rain, or if they're in, things like that. We do have like sawdust shaving. I mean, they get well vetted every day, and they get fresh vetting every day. Some of our stalls are like 10 by 12s and some are 12 by 12s. It would just depend on which end or how big your horse is. But they're the average size stall. Everybody gets a ton of hay every day. I swear they all get like a bale of hay at every serving of hay. It seems like they have so much. So nobody's bored or going hungry for sure.
How often do freshmen get the opportunity to board compared to like seniors and juniors?
It's pretty well spread out because it really is first come, first serve. So obviously if juniors and seniors have had their horse there the whole time, then they're going to save that spot if they want it. But we've had times, I know, not last year, but maybe the year before, that 75% of our boarders were freshmen. So it's not like an impossibility by any means. If you have a horse and you want to bring them, just let us know so that we can get you on that list. And there's typically a spot.
Is there good academic support if a student has difficulties with a course?
Yes, and I'm sure Lauren and Mackenzie can talk about this a little bit more, but we do have a lot of resources on campus and a lot of students who serve as student instructors. And so they'll take notes and make sure those notes get spread out to the students who maybe weren't in class or who might need some extra tutoring and things like that for sure.
And I don't know, Lauren and Mackenzie, you guys feel free to put in your 2 cents as students. I will say we have the Powell Resource Center on campus, and this center is completely dedicated to making sure you succeed as a student. So they have tutors for every class we offer, whether it be a student who was recommended by one of their professors or a professor themselves. I will say particularly anyone who's doing equine studies, a lot of your classmates will absolutely help you. With many of your stuff. Not to mention the Powell Resource Center also has counseling. So we have at least 2 counselors on call 24 hours. You'll all have their phone numbers and it is totally free to use all of that. And, you can call those counselors at 24 hours, any point in the day, if you just need to talk to someone or anything like that.
Thank you.
I personally have been on both ends of the spectrum where I've been in SI for a couple freshman honors English classes, but then I've also had to go to our QLC, which is our Quantitative Learning Center or Literacy Center for math help because I am absolutely horrible at math and would not have made it through math classes without those resources. So that is nice too that students have the opportunity to be SI supplemental instructors. So if you are good at something, you can do that as a work study opportunity as well. So that's really nice.
If you are transferring credits from a previous degree, can you do you most likely start as a junior or do you start as a freshman in the equine studies programs?
So you will probably, if you already have a degree, even like an associate's or anything like that, you'll be going through our transfer admissions counselor. Her name is Mary Bolt, and she and I can work together to make sure you have all the information you need. But she'll also be able to tell you what classes you don't have to take with us because you've already taken them through your other degree. So if you already have credits, you wouldn't be considered a freshman necessarily, but you'll still have to take like all the equine studies classes if that's the route you want to take. So you may be a junior with mostly equine studies classes left, that sort of deal. We'll just have to see what classes you've already taken.
All right, thank you.
Here's a good question for Mackenzie or Lauren. What is a typical day like for equine studies and team member student?
I'll take this one. I mean, it is so flexible. Like they've already said, and it really depends on your schedule. But I am an equine studies and a education double major, so my days get pretty packed, but usually for the most part the riding classes tend to be in the afternoon. The coaches are really awesome about holding classes that are at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, even if it means they have to stay a little later just to let you get your riding time in, because a lot of the classes on campus do tend to be earlier in the morning. We do have some riding classes also in the morning. So if I've had days where I'm in class all morning and then I'm out at the barn in the afternoon, or vice versa, where I'm out at the barn in the morning and then back on campus. And if you're an equine studies major, there will probably be days where you're out at the barn all day. There's been days I'm there from about 10 o'clock in the morning till 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So it really just depends on your schedule.
What person do we contact if we're interested in boarding our horse?
That would be Kristen Bowen. She works at the barn. She's literally in charge of anything and everything, paperwork wise, all that good stuff. She's wonderful. And I can put her email down in the chat box.
Okay. And when should we put our interest in boarding our horse in? Like, should we put it in soon, or should we wait till the spring, or admitted?
Put it in as soon as possible. When it comes to first come, first serve for incoming freshmen, it's first come, first serve means people who put their enrollment deposit down. That's first come, first serve sort of deal as far as that goes. But we can get your name on a list now. And then if you decide to deposit, then you get put on the real list, I guess is the way I would put it.
Thank you.
And I think Elise asked about, would it be possible to have a time-consuming major and ride on the team? Absolutely. So there is going to have to be obviously some flexibility on everybody's end as far as your schedule goes. But as long as you let the coaches know from the beginning that, hey, these weekends I have a production on campus, we're not going to be able to do a horse show if I get picked. As long as you let us know early, then we can absolutely work with that. So we make it work. And there have been plenty of students who have had to do funny things like kind of split up a class and ride with one section one day and another class another day. But we're pretty flexible and make it work with your schedule. So as long as you guys let us know what you need from the beginning, we are all extremely flexible on schedules and making sure that everybody gets where they need to go.
Just gonna pop in and answer Emma's question real quick. With the EC finals being held in the fall, usually coaches are super flexible if you have to miss like a riding class because you're going to do some other horse related thing, like Heather, Lisa, Jess, they all understand that, they get it, as long as you're not missing like actual like weeks at a time of classes. I think the only situation you have to kind of be careful of with that is your professors, because you may be leaving for something that is not a school sanctioned event. Sometimes depending on who you have, they're either going to be flexible with it and they're like, oh, okay, that's fine, whatever. Or they're going to be like, okay, it's not exactly my problem. So you're going to have to still get all your stuff together. So I would just keep that in mind too. If you're planning on missing a lot of classes, just make sure that you plan your schedule ahead of time, that you are still going to be keeping up with your work, because it's not a school sanctioned event. You're not going to be excused from anything.
Let's take, for example, like if you're not on the team, can you still tag along to a show that, like, say Tryon, and you guys are competing in equitations and I would go off and do the jumpers? Is that allowed or is that not allowed with my own coach?
Okay, so when we go out to outside shows outside of IHSA, we do compete in anything from equitation to the hunters, the jumpers. I mean, we have students who do it all. So those are not necessarily team events. And sometimes there's students who aren't on the team who go to those events if they have a horse or we have a horse for them to go and show on. If you trailered down with us, I'm not sure, we would have to really talk about outside coaches and things like that. But if you trailer yourself down and you want to meet up with your coach and we also happen to be there, but it's not a school sanctioned deal, then you can absolutely show with your coach that you meet up with. Our outside horse shows are very much based on student interest and who wants to go. Those events are not going to count towards IHSA points or IDA points or anything that's related to the team. So team stuff is going to be fully funded and backed by the school as far as IDA and IHSA. But our outside horse shows, so if you decide you want to go and show with us at the A circuit, students are responsible for those fees. So the outside stuff is very separate. So it's a different deal and different set of expectations and things like that we talk about as we get into the semester and those opportunities come up.
So you have to pay, if they're outside shows, you have to pay your own show fees and stabling fees and all that stuff?
Yes. Yeah. Just like a regular, if you were a regular barn. So
Okay,
they run just like a normal horse show does. Let's see, how many people practice together for team practices? It depends on schedules and how many people can be out at the barn at different times, just depending on what you have on campus. So it could be anywhere from 4 people to 10 people. That's just going to depend. But your classes, those really serve as your practices. And in any of your mounted classes that you take, we cap all of those at 8 people. So you're not going to be in a class of more than 8. The practices that happen right before you would head out to a horse show, those are just kind of making sure we have some last minute tweaking to do or getting you some extra time, things like that. But that's why we require all students on the team to be in at least one riding class every semester, because that's really going to serve as your practice time goes. So you won't have any more than 8 people in any of your classes. As far as exams and finals go, all of your lecture classes will have typical exams and finals you would have during finals week. Any of your riding classes, if your instructor for that class does a riding final, it will be on the last day of regular classes. And it would just be an in-class, and they're pretty informal. Usually I set up like a course and tell my students, okay, go do it. And I'm not going to say anything. And then we talk about it afterwards. But your grade in your riding classes is based on your attendance and your participation and the turnout of your horse as you go through the semester. None of us are going to say, if you come in and you are just learning your posting diagonals, that at the end you have to jump a 3-foot course. That would be absolutely unreasonable. So everything is really based on where you are, and then we help you progress. So you're graded on your participation, your professionalism, and the turnout of your horse, how you take care of them. And then we work with you on the skills. So the finals that would happen would just be to see if we met the goals that we had set, and where we need to work on some things in the next semester. Hopefully that answered the finals question. And finals in your other classes. So if you take my methods of teaching class, we have a final, and you would take that during finals week. Those are typical normal ones.
You were saying about the writing in some of the class work. Is that done on the school horses, or can that be done on your personal horse too?
So we prefer that students ride school horses, because you will get to ride a wide variety of our horses. So you won't be on the same horse every lesson, but we do at times, as long as you ask beforehand, the instructor that you have, we do let students ride their personal horses in class every once in a while. But the bulk of your work is going to be done on the school horses, so that we can apply the different lessons that we need to make sure everybody has before they graduate.
Does each school horse has its own tack and saddle and stuff? So basically we use your tack for your school horses? So
all of our school horses have their own bridles. They have a hunt seat bridle and they have a dressage bridle, if they do both. And then we have brushes for all of our horses. So everybody has their own brushes. You don't have to share brushes or anything like that. And we have saddles available for students to use on school horses only, but each horse does not have their own saddle. So a wide variety of dressage and hunt seat saddles that you can borrow and use if you don't have your own. If you do have your own, you're welcome to use your tack as far as your saddle goes, girth but we have girth, saddle pads, all that good stuff. If they have any special needs as far as their boots or half pads or anything go, we do provide that for our horses.
Do you guys make sure that like if I were to bring my saddle and would you guys make sure that it fits the horse properly? Because some of my saddles are custom built saddles for my horse specific.
Yes.
But some of them, it may not fit like a smaller horse or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So every time that you go into class, you're going to have an instructor watching pretty much everything you do. And we're all very hands-on. So we're going to walk up, check the tack, check to make sure everything fits correctly and all of that. And then obviously if you have a saddle and you put it on a horse and you have a question about it, you can always come and grab one of us or one of our horse managers and say, hey, will you look at this before I get all the way tacked up? And then we'll swap. I mean, there have been many times where we've swapped out saddles, and tried something different on a horse or one of our saddles that are in the barn. So we make sure that the horse always come first in the barn. And we're ever going to put them in a situation where they are going to have to not have the top care. So if it comes down to saddle fit, if it comes down to that we have to stop a class and make sure we slow down for a horse or anything like that, they're always going to come first. So absolutely, we make sure all the tack fits. We're pretty particular about it. We get pretty picky about, how we want the saddle pads to be and how we want things to go. So we definitely have a system as far as that goes, and the horses are always first in that system for sure.
What is the best part of the team, and what is the most difficult part of the team?
I would say the best part is that it creates a team atmosphere in a sport that we don't usually get to enjoy that in. That, and you get to ride a ton of different horses that you might not ever have had a chance to sit on. One of the things that all collegiate programs, and I think we're especially lucky, but some pretty amazing horses get donated to collegiate programs. I mean, we have some really, really cool, awesome horses in our barn, and other schools do as well. So you get the opportunity to go out and show those horses when, typically they would be high dollar, high performance. No way they're gonna go around show with random people, but you guys get that chance, which is really, really awesome. And then on the flip side, that could be the hardest part for some people, is that you're going to get on a horse that you've never sat on before and go into the show ring. So, and now it's part of a team, right? So your points get to go back and help your team that day, which is really exciting, but maybe a little nerve-wracking. But yeah, I think that is really the coolest part. You get to sit on so many different horses. You get to be a part of a team. It's not just you out there by yourself anymore. And the team really backs you up and supports you. So all the way down to our walk trot riders. Everybody's so excited when they go in and have their first horse show ever. And you guys get to be a part of helping other people join the industry. So I think that's really exciting. I also work with a lot of our walk trot riders, so I get excited for them. But as far as having tack of your own at the barn, we do have 2 student tack rooms. So there is a spot for you to keep your stuff. It gets locked every night. And then we also have gates that get locked at the barn. So everything's very secure out at the barn. We have an upstairs tack room for the freshmen, and then the upperclassmen have a downstairs tack room. And you can bring a trunk and you will get a whole list of equipment that is suggested, and then the size that your trunk is allowed to be. So that all gets sent out when you are accepted and start planning your packing and all that stuff to come to school.
I would definitely recommend, if you have a big wooden trunk, to maybe not bring that if you are freshmen and have to be upstairs, because the stairs are super steep and it's a little hard to get your trunks up and down. I had a really big wooden tack trunk that I attempted to bring my freshman year, and I was like, okay, that's an awful idea. And a lot of us just end up getting like the Husky boxes, or the little I don't know, like some Rubbermaid type boxes with the lock holes instead, because you can fit all your helmet, boots, whatever stuff you have, and it's a lot easier to carry up those stairs at the beginning and end of the years.
If you, like I said, I have like a custom saddle. If my saddle needs to be readjusted because my horse has changed a little bit, are you allowed to bring an outside person in, a saddle fitter in, to check my saddle? on my
Yeah.
horse?
Absolutely. Anything that's going to be a horse care thing with your own personal horse, that you are allowed to bring in a saddle fitter for that.
So I just have to put that up with the barn manager just to say, hey, she's coming out this day to check my horse. I'll be here, so she's aware of the situation.
Yep, exactly. If you don't own a horse, can you still bring a trunk? Absolutely. So if you are not bringing a horse with you, but you have your own saddle and obviously you have a helmet and boots and all that stuff, absolutely, you can bring a trunk and keep that upstairs. So you don't have to have your car as a traveling pack trunk all the time. Certainly bring your stuff. And not all roommates appreciate sweaty helmets and stuff in their room. So you can leave it at the barn. Let's see, what opportunities do you have for lower income students? So there's a ton of different financial aid options, and I'm sure Odessa can probably speak forever about that and send you all kinds of information about it. But we have the nice thing about IHSA. So if you come and you do the program and you want to do the team, you do tryouts and all that good stuff, you only pay your membership fee, which is $45. And that's going to be the cheapest that horse shows ever get. So as far as horse showing goes, IHSA was actually founded on the premise of allowing college students to continue horse showing without having huge horse show fees all the time, or having to have their own horse and pay that. And I think that's one of the really great things about IHSA, is that gave a ton of opportunities to people who might not have an opportunity to show, but it's extremely affordable. We have a ton of students who are willing to share their equipment and their show clothes. And there's plenty of times where people will graduate and leave a jacket or sell a jacket and things like that. So there's lots of ways to make it work. Obviously, we have the work studies, so you can do that. And the work study students learn so much just from being at the barn as often as they are. But yeah, there's plenty of opportunities. There's plenty of ways to make it work. And obviously, as far as college itself goes, there's a ton of financial aid options out there, and scholarships. Look for scholarships even outside of just the ones through Emory and Henry. There's a lot out there that people don't apply for. So if you write a couple essays, you'd be amazed at how many opportunities are out in the world. So, but I know Odessa, I'm sure, will send you tons of information about all of that good stuff. Do we have summer camps? We do, and we will be posting our 3 summer camp dates for this upcoming summer very soon. We're kind of nailing down what weeks work, but we do have summer camps, and you get to come out and you get to ride with all of us. And so you ride with Heather and Lisa, and then you get to take a lecture class with me, and you get to ride our school horses and stay on campus. So you get the full Emory and Henry experience, obviously in the middle of summer, but so you get the best weather. It's nice and warm. You do that. Let's see. Does it matter if you bring a 3-year-old in the future years of college so you can start their career? I mean, absolutely. If that's the horse that you want to bring and you want to utilize our coaches and our facilities for that, we can certainly help you with that. We've had lots of young horses in the barn. We have a training class, so those students get to work on putting first rides on a horse and going through all that experience. So absolutely. Let's see, is there a minimum riding ability for the summer camp? I believe that we do have, I think they have to be jumping 2.3 or 2.6, but you also are going to send a video about that. Sorry. You're going to send a video so that we can see your riding ability before you come out to camp, and there's an application for it. And we've had times in the summer where we've had students who weren't at that ability level, and we just made sure to group them together so they still got the full experience. So if you're interested in the camp, certainly apply, send in all of your information, and we will group you with the right people, so that the students who are maybe doing higher level can all be grouped together, and then our students who are doing like 2 foot are together, so everybody gets the most out of that experience.
If you ice your horse's legs after like jumping and stuff, do you guys have ice coolers, or do you have to supply your own bags of ice?
We don't have any ice coolers right now. So you have to supply your own. Certainly, we can talk about different accommodations for horses that might be coming and boarding in the future, but that would be a barn manager and a Lisa discussion as far as space and everything.
Do you guys have laundry for horse stuff like saddle pads and polos and stuff?
Yep, we do. We have laundry at the barn. We have a washer and a dryer in our break room. So, and that is, if you have stuff that you want to throw in with our college stuff, that is absolutely fine.
Is the Emory and Henry community supportive of the equine study students?
Absolutely. And I will let Lauren and Mackenzie talk about this a little bit, but we make up a pretty big, impactful part of the community. So they are extremely supportive, but I will let them kind of chat about their experience that they have with that. They're going to make me like call on them. Okay. Lauren, you have to talk about it.
Or shy, you're just staring at each other. Yes, I would say that the ENH community, like campus community as a whole, is definitely supportive of the equine team, majors, minors, anybody. I know it sounds kind of like weird at first. You're like, oh, like people call you equines. I'm like, yeah, just like oh, see that kid is in the football team. It's the exact same thing. It's just kind of like the little category you could put into. It has no like, it's just like equines, just how you identify. But I'd say your freshman year is really fun because people usually don't know a lot about schools having equine teams, equine programs, anything like that. And so a lot of people want to know a lot about like what you do. Do you ride in the team? What do you do at the barn? Stuff like that. So it's really interesting that we get so much interest and so much support from people who either know a lot about riding or don't know anything. But you're definitely very accepted in the community.
And it is fun at like home shows. You will see like a bunch of students just randomly coming in and you're like, oh my God, you guys are here to support us, because it's not something that you expect to come all the way out to the barn and have to drive there. But we'll see other teams come and support us all the time. Other coaches I've even seen at the home shows to come support the team. So yeah, we're definitely supported on campus.
Yeah, and it's definitely not just students too. There is the sweetest man in the cafeteria. His name is Dave, and we absolutely love him. And he loves equine so much. And a lot of times he makes us like breakfast sandwiches, biscuits, muffins, and stuff. And like the butt crack of dawn, this man is at the barn at horse shows, and he drops off this big old basket of food, and he is always so excited. It's like, I made you guys sausage biscuits, and we're all like starving. We've been up for like 2 hours already. It's 5 a.m. We're like, yes, food. So it's really nice, little stuff like that. Like even the staff in the ENH community are super supportive of us.
Thank you. Another question is, my ultimate goal in my career choice of why I chose to do equine studies is equine rehabilitation and therapies for horses. And tell me a little bit if I'm doing the right path of going into equine studies. I'm hopefully transferring maybe out to a different college to do equine rehabilitation and therapies for horses to get a certificate in my training there. But just kind of saying, is that a good idea to go into equine science and then go to equine rehabilitation, or should I go into vet and then do equine rehabilitation or vet tech?
So obviously there's it's a pretty big conversation to have, but I would say doing equine studies is always going to be a great foundation for that. And you can always come in and do our pre-vet track with equine studies so that you really get both sides of it. And that's a better launching pad than to go into the equine rehabilitation. Plus, Dr. Patty is going to have a lot of great networking connections for you and have that experience of going through some of the major programs and the research side of it. And it's something we actually didn't talk about yet. So Dr. Patty is our director of the entire program. And she has a lot of opportunities for students as undergraduates to do research, which is something that a big school wouldn't have that opportunity for their students. So we're really lucky at Emory and Henry that we're small enough that we can provide that opportunity. And students have done all kinds of different research projects with her. And then they also get to be published as part of the findings of that research. And she's a great resource for anything as far as postgraduate studies and things like that. But I'm always going to say that equine studies is a great base, because we're going to make sure that you come out with an understanding of all of the different aspects, and then you get to apply those when you go on to wherever specialization you would want to do.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Any other questions? And any of the questions you guys have about boarding and things like that, feel free to reach out to Kristen Bowen and ask her, or say, hey, I want to get on the list. And we can always talk about individual accommodations for different horses as far as age, or if they have certain medications and stuff. But we've had lots of different situations out at the barn where your horse is going to be taken care of. For sure, no questions asked. There's always somebody out there. And literally does night check at 11 o'clock every night, and then they are back out there to feed at 6 a.m. But we are happy to answer kind of the individual special situation questions through Kristen or Lisa, or if you want to reach out to Odessa or myself, if you really want to, we can chat with you about what that boarding situation might look like. So.
Barn health, do you require all the horses to have Coggins and up-to-date vaccines and health certificates?
Yes, absolutely. So everybody has to come in with a Coggins and health certificate. Kristen can give you the list of vaccines. If you're coming from out of area, we might have some that your horse might not have, depending on what part of the country you're coming from. So shingles, vaccines, all that good stuff. We make sure everybody's up to date on everything prior to coming in, and then that you remain up to date while your horse is here. So all of the industry standard vaccinations are required.
What do you guys use for fly control?
So we're actually we really don't have very many flies at the barn, but our manure is taken off property and disposed of. So we don't keep it on property, and everything in that barn gets cleaned so often. So the stalls are getting cleaned out. Everything is getting hosed down and swept down daily. And then we have obviously our typical, we have birds that eat the flies, but we really don't have a fly problem at the barn. It is shocking going from the Intermont barn or Emory and Henry barn out to other barns in the area, and you realize you've been in a barn all day and haven't seen a single fly, and fly spray, and then I come home and have to fly spray my own horses. So we're very lucky with the fly control situation.
And what's your hay? What do they get fed usually hay wise? Is it like an orchard grass? Is it a Timothy, or is it alfalfa? You know?
Right now we're on a Timothy mix. It's a local hay. But if your horse has different requirements, certainly we've had horses that had to get their own special hay and things like that. But that's one of those boarding situations to ask about. We're pretty picky about the hay. Our horses are pretty picky about the hay. So they quickly weed out if we have a bad batch, and we just send it back. And then
if something is wrong with your horse at night, and is the barn manager or whoever checks them able to get in contact with the student if their horse is sick or something like that, to be able to best way possible?
Yeah, absolutely. So all of your information, if you're boarding a horse, is kept on file, and that is all of the barn managers have access to that, so they can get in touch with you. And then obviously if there's something going on with your horse, the gate's going to get unlocked and you can come in, and we'll call the vet, and whatever needs to happen will happen. So.
Great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
All right. Does anyone else have anything you can think of about, even student life, anything like that? It does not have to be in a specifically equine related question. By all means, you can ask anything you'd like to. I'm going to give it, I really thought that this would last. Typically they do for about an hour. So I'm pretty impressed. You guys got some good questions. But if anyone else has any other questions, feel free, ask away, and we'll start wrapping it up soon here. What is the class size? I'm sorry, Jess. As far
I was going to read it too.
I'll speak on terms of on campus, the typical class sizes, and this is for more of your core classes, are 10-to-1 ratio. So you'll have about 10 people per professor. And then Jess can speak on the course classes.
Yeah, so we, as far as your lecture classes go, you're going to be around that same 10-to-1 size. And then any of your mounted riding classes are going to be capped at 8 people. So you won't have any more than 8 in any riding class that you're in. Is there a possibility of Western riding at Emory and Henry? Not right now, but I will say I've had myself in a lot of classes, a lot of students who have come in with Western backgrounds and then found that they really enjoy the English. So whether it's dressage or the hunt seat side of it. And then some of them, after they graduate, go and take all the things that they learned in our program and apply them to the Western style of riding. My theory is riding is good riding, and you can learn a lot from a lot of different disciplines. So I do encourage you to still look at us, even if maybe you haven't been in a hunt seat saddle or dressage saddle before. I know we had a student a couple of years ago who did mainly Western and then ended up going on to IDA Nationals as an intro rider. So there's no bias on if you're coming from another discipline. We've had Western riders, saddle seat riders. We've seen people from all different backgrounds. What would you suggest newer riders that have some experience but no show experience bring? If you don't have any show experience, don't panic about that. That is completely fine. And just bring what you have. So don't run out and buy an entire outfit. We will help you with that. We will make sure that when you decide to buy a jacket or, the boots and all that good stuff, if you don't have them right now, we will make sure you get what's going to work best for you and going to last. So just bring what you have. Make sure you have, the bare minimum will be that you have boots, whether it's paddock boots and half chaps or tall boots, and a helmet. And we do require that you wear breeches and that you have a shirt you can tuck in and wear a belt. We're very big on professionalism because you never know who's going to walk in that door. It could be the person who wants to hire you for that summer job or hire you when you graduate. And we will talk about all that stuff when you're on campus. In that first riding class meeting, we go over dress code and things like that. But bring what you have. Don't panic. Don't go out and buy everything and then have to do that whole thing over again. So no worries if you don't have show clothes. Let's see. I'm not honestly sure about what our common scholarship amount is, but I'm sure Odessa can give you the ranges that there are.
Typically, they do range from $500 through about, I would say maximum is about $5,000. And usually we cap it off at about $4,500 and we can raise it a little bit from there. But by not raising it originally more than $5,000, then we can raise it while you're here with us and your skills grow and that sort of deal. $500 would be for someone who might be doing like cross-rail courses or maybe just needs a lot more basic work. And there's really, by no means would your scholarship number determine your worth to our team. So just be aware of that. And we can add on to it later. So it's really not a big deal.
Yeah, and that's really good, Odessa. So whatever scholarship you get does not determine if you're going to show or not show or what class, what's going to happen when you get here. All of that is just going to be based on once you're here and we're starting to work with you. So whatever number you come in with doesn't determine any of that.
How many, you said you have 3 rings. Are any of them indoor or covered arenas, or are they, and do you have lights in the outdoor or no?
So we have 2 indoor arenas And then we have a huge outdoor arena. We don't have lights in the outdoor, but we have the 2 indoor arenas that are completely connected to the barn. So you don't even have to like go hike out in the rain or anything like that. You're going to be inside and we can close the doors and all that. During the winter, I just rode in the indoor today and it was miserable outside and it was
It's okay. I can answer until she comes back in. But yeah, one of the best things about our equestrian center as a whole is the fact that our 2 indoor arenas are attached to the barn. You do not have to go outside at all to ride, which personally, coming from someone who doesn't like going outside at all when it's cold, was incredible. And really, for me personally, based on my experience beforehand, it was pretty awesome. But we do also have the outdoor arena. It is not lighted, so we do only ride out there during the day. And then we have the back 40 where you can ride too.
If your horse is boarded, are they boarded in a separate barn away from the lesson horses, or are they all boarded in the same barn facility?
They're boarded in the same facility. We have what we call aisle C, which is the 3rd aisle of our barn, and that's where our boarders are.
Okay, thank you.
All right, guys, if we don't have any other questions, I'm going to go ahead and wrap us up. I did put my email down in the chat box. Y'all feel free to reach out to me, and I can send any questions you have that I don't know the answer to anywhere they need to go. So any questions at all, feel free. It was great having you guys here. Thank you so much for coming and joining us, and hopefully we'll see you guys in the future.